Salmon's Pizzeria, where once again we're back with a championship penitentiary, where this time, due to midweek shenanigans and scheduling stuff, this is a bit of a two-parter, where it is myself and Enzo for the first three games, where we're going to cover the Saturday games, and then we're going to move to myself, Cal, and Kieran, maybe if Kieran comes along, covering the Friday night game, because it's St Johnstone involved, and the Tuesday night games, which are on at the moment of recording. But of course, as mentioned, Enzo is here for the Saturday game. So Enzo, how are you?
Yeah, I'm doing well. Thank you. First time joining this podcast with Queens Park having won a league fixture, which is very exciting. We'll come on to talk about that in a bit more detail soon. I'm currently wearing a 2008 Queens Park home shirt tonight. Fished that out at the bottom of my cupboard just for the sake of recording this podcast. How are you doing, Callum?
I have been dying of man flu this past week, and let me tell you, Saturday did not make my feelings any better.
No.
And so, speaking of not making my feelings any better, we might as well get it out of the way. Airdrie were at home to Raith Rovers on Saturday, and Airdrie having come off a defeat to Partick Thistle. Meanwhile, Raith came off a defeat against St Johnstone. Now, Raith this season have been pretty good. I wouldn't say we put in a bad performance at all this season, despite our defeats to Thistle and St Johnstone. This was a bad performance. This was
no beating around the bush.
No beating around the bush whatsoever. This was a bad performance from Raith. But Airdrie are worse. Airdrie are dreadful. And the depth that they have is not at this level. In a game of fuck all, to put it lightly, Raith created slightly less fuck all. The first half really was a half of nothing. And then the second half was a case of Rafe tried and didn't. Nothing worked. Other things like passing the ball on the deck, going route one, balls into the box, everything. Nothing came off. The closest we got was through Lewis Vaughan when he had a chance 1-on-1, but then it's like a good first touch, then a shite second touch, brought it too close to the goalkeeper, and as he's running to the box, he nips the ball to see if the goalkeeper will foul him to win a penalty. Goalkeeper just backs out completely, and the ball just goes out. And that's the closest we got. And then the closest Airdrie got, the only time Airdrie had any sort of threat was the very, very end when a deflected shot hit the bar, bounced down, and from where I was sat, it was it bounced down just in front of the line. It was terrifying, but it would have been a case of a goal like that would have fitted this game. Just a really terrible game. I don't want to talk about this anymore. I want it to happen.
On the flip side, I mean, I believe, am I right in saying that Raith have a terrible record in Airdrie? A really, really bad record in Airdrie. Haven't won very many games there over the years at all. So you have to kind of look at it from the perspective of it was probably unlikely that you would go there and pick up 3 points in the first place.
Yeah, but they said, I get where you're coming from. Where it is
I'm trying to spin it as a positive, but I realise that it's not, obviously.
The thing is, it's since Airdrie have come back up to the championship, we've had a terrible record against Airdrie just in general.
Yeah.
That's why I hate this so much.
Yeah.
It's why I hate this so much, because it's last season we lost the opening game of the season at Airdrie, and Airdrie went on to have 6 points by Christmas, and their only win was against us. It's our second game against them, we won at home midweek, and it was just oh my god, we've actually beaten Airdrie. And it's this season, we've said time and again on this podcast, Airdrie looked terrible. And it's I even said, if we perform the way we did against St Johnstone, we'd pump Airdrie. We didn't perform like we did against St Johnstone.
Yeah.
We really didn't. It just did not come off whatsoever. So
yeah. I think Airdrie, to me, they just look like they lack any real threat whatsoever. So I think drawing games like that is probably the best they can do. They just don't have any firepower up front at all, and that is it's a difference maker at any level really, but at this level, it's going to kill you if you're not scoring goals. You're in trouble, and I think it looks like at this point, I mean, realistically, what are they going to do in the next week? Bring in a 19-year-old on loan who's never really played much senior football before at all. I can't see them picking up a significant number of points between now and January at the very soonest, to be honest with you. Wraith, on the other hand, have had a relatively good start to the season, like you pointed out earlier on. And I think you can probably point to that having been maybe a bit of it kind of bucked the trend a little bit because Wraith have been. I mean, you've scored a few goals here and there, and it's just one of those games. I don't think it's overall reflective of how Wraith's season has been so far and how it's going to go. Though I do understand though after the disappointment of having been beaten by St Johnstone, when you had the opportunity to really kind of keep up the pace with them, you'd have been looking at this as the opportunity to bounce back, and obviously it didn't happen the way you were hoping or probably expecting.
Yeah, I think it was just the expectation of this is it.
Yeah.
We're actually going to finally beat them in Edgery and putting a performance like that and all that
The
sort of
hope that
stuff.
kills you. It's the hope that kills you, man.
It really is. It really is. But yeah, as you mentioned about Edgery's depth, it's like when they brought players on, it's like I would go on my phone and just be like, "Who's this boy? Who's this guy?" And it's like their only previous clubs have been like League Two teams
Mhm.
or clubs like Peterhead who like bounce around between League One and League Two, and it's like that's not gonna work in the Championship.
I mean, you can. There are guys playing in League One and League Two who can make the step up, but they're guys who are performing to a really high level in those divisions who are ready for that. But I don't really feel as though. I mean, I when we did our preseason predictions, I had Airdrie in 10th place, and put it this way, I have not budged on that 1 inch.
Yeah, it's like even after watching this game, even though it's like they did manage to get a point that is purely through hoodoo against us, they're finishing bottom.
I
They're
think
so finishing bottom. I
there's a
know
lot of
Ross
football
County
to
have
play.
their issues, and we'll get onto them later. But Airdrie are finishing bottom. There's no one else that I can see. It's like they don't have a Hamilton Ackies who are just a bomb scare off the pitch who are going to get a 15-point deduction. That's not happening this season.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I worry for them. I worry if I were an Airdrie fan, I would be quite concerned about what I'm seeing. And obviously, there was they always had this, and I think this was again the conversation we had when we were considering where they were likely to place this season. There was always a kind of Reece McCabe factor, a good young manager who's done a great job at them in getting them promoted, and then having a good season in the championship, and then pulling away from the bottom of the table. Granted, as you say, Aki's helped them, but now that he's gone, he's been replaced by a guy like Danny Lennon. I can't see them doing very well at all this year.
I mean, I'm not an Airdrie fan, so I'll be happy to see them go.
I thought we were trying to be quite impartial here. I could say a lot worse
No.
things about Airdrie, trust me.
At any point have I been impartial on this
Okay,
podcast?
fair enough. I respect that.
Yeah, I mean, I try to be impartial at points, but ultimately brings it back,
Yeah,
But
fair enough.
yeah, moving on to a game that actually had some goals, um, and like things happening. We head up to Gayfield, where Arbroath were at home to Morton. Arbroath were looking to come back after a 5-0 pumping off of Dunfermline, which is frankly embarrassing for anyone. Whilst Morton had a 0-0 draw against Queen's Park, which um, took the place of the Airdrie Wraith game this week from last week, where we just spent like not even 2 minutes
Yeah,
talking about it. It was a nothing game.
I wasn't even there to discuss it with you. I was there, and even if I had been, I don't think I could have stretched out beyond maybe about 3 minutes. So you did the right thing by skipping past that. Trust
I
me.
think we spent more. I think me and Kieran spent more time talking about the League Cup quarter final as like a pre. We
Understandable.
did talking about
Absolutely
it.
understandable.
It's like we're a championship podcast. But yeah, this one was interesting just through the fact it's like the Morton in the first half were really unlucky to have not got a goal.
Mhm.
I think it was Eamon Brophy who had like two really, really good opportunities to put the visitors ahead,
Yeah.
and there was another one where it's like it got past the goalkeeper, but defender cleared it. It wasn't quite on the line, but it was one of those. But yeah, it's like Morton very much were deserving of a lead, but then Finley Marshall for Arbroath would give Morton, not Morton, Arbroath the lead very early on in the second half, and they would have. There was a couple of corners. There was a couple of corners that Arbroath had, a couple of half chances, but nothing major. And then Morton would get their equaliser through Jackson Longridge with about 10 minutes to go, where the ball just bundles in. It's a very Morton goal,
Yeah. Yeah.
bundling in from a corner.
I
But
think I think I'm going to try and look at this from the perspective of both sides. Arbroath, obviously, they went up to Dingwall a few weeks ago and got a 2-1 win with that kind of last minute penalty, and they would have been flying. And then obviously they were brought thoroughly back down to earth when they got absolutely pumped by Dunfermline. And I'm not sure whether they would have been particularly happy. I feel as though I know that Morton have proven themselves to be difficult to beat this season, given that they've drawn about 800 games already. But I feel as though Arbroath, if they have any real, I don't know how realistic it is, but if they have any real goals of pushing for the top four, I feel as though given what happened with them last week, they would have felt as though this is a game that they should be winning, especially going 1-0 up. They're going to be disappointed at having dropped 2 points ultimately. Morton, though, they need to get a win from somewhere. They really do. It was an interesting lineup, I thought, because I saw that Garrity and Cameron McPherson both started for them up at Gayfield. Both who were subs, they were both on the bench against us the week prior, came off, and I actually thought kind of shifted the momentum a little bit and played quite well. So I wasn't too surprised to see that. Um, but yeah, Morton need to win a game. I mean, they're not. To be fair, there are 4 teams in this league that are sitting going, "We really need to win a game at some point." But they desperately do. It's you can't you can't carry on like this unless your goal is ultimately to draw your way to ninth place.
yeah, so I just decided to have a quick look there what the future fixtures are. The next two games, they're at home to Ross County on this Saturday, and then after
Yeah.
that they're away against Edgebury. See if they don't win either of those games, then I'm putting them in the trouble category. I'm putting them in the trouble category.
It's still early doors, so the league table's wide open, but I think it's very possible that we might see a team get dragged into a relegation fight this season who nobody would have predicted to be there before the season started. It could be Morton. Could be Morton.
Could be Morton and well, very easily could be Ross County by the way things are going.
Uh,
But, or
we'll talk about them
United,
more soon. Yeah.
or United, but yeah, it is a weird one because it's like when Rafe played against Morton, I didn't think Morton were that bad. I
Hmm.
thought Morton were okay, like this a very solid midfield
Yeah.
championship side, not one that's gonna not one that's going to challenge the playoffs, but not one that's going to be in any trouble of relegation. But it's like the longer this run goes on, then, as you said, it does start to become a bit of a worry because there is momentum. There is like forgetting how to win.
Yeah, and I
You
think they're a. My take on Morton is that they're a very. Anytime obviously I've seen them play in person, but I've seen some clips and highlights and things. They're a very slow team. They don't have much pace about them at all. And they're actually, and this goes against everything that Dougie Emery's teams have been for the past few years. They're actually a very soft team as well. And I think we can combine the two of those. That is a bit of a recipe for what we're seeing right now, which is a team that, despite the fact that they do have some good players and there is ability in that team, they're going to struggle to break teams down, but they're also not going to go and get hammered every week, and that's why they're drawing basically every week. So I don't know, but I know for a fact that if I were a Morton fan, I'd just be desperate to win at least one of these next 2 games, like you point out, especially given the form that their 2 opponents are currently on.
yeah, it's a weird one. And Arbroath, meanwhile, continue just being. I mean, considering our expectations for them, it's still a pretty good start to the season. They're still, as of recording, they're still sitting third. They're still in that playoff spot, and more than they could have asked for, really. It was just picking up points.
Yeah, they
The
are.
goal for this season would have been to stay up at a minimum.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. I think at some point Arbroath will go on a poor run of form and they'll lose a few games in a row. But the overall, Arbroath fans are not going to be upset with the way things are going. Yes, the game last week against Dunfermline would have been a real kind of gut punch, but overall, they can't have too many complaints. They've got a solid team that works really hard. I think they've got a fair bit of depth as well, considering they're a part-time team. Co-managers that seem to know what they're doing. So yeah, overall they'll be happy. I don't think they're going to be anywhere near the top four come the end of the season, though.
Meanwhile, we move on to two teams that are very much in amongst the trouble block, but it's Ross County against Queens Park. Now, both sides hold the record going into this game of having not won in the league since the 1st of March, or, to put it in today's terms, 202. Not that a certain someone was counting. Enzo, I'm going to give you the honours.
Yeah, I'll try not to talk too long here because I'm aware that we're not getting into too much detail in these games. But the first thing I want to highlight is that frustratingly, despite the fact that I was in attendance for every other league game, home and away, in that stretch of form, I could not get any dog sitters on Saturday, which meant that I was unable to go to Dingwall, which was very disappointing because I've not been to Dingwall since the 2007-2008 League One season when we were in the same league as Ross County. I think it was maybe even at the time it might even have been the second division before
It
they
was the second
rebranded the
division.
leagues.
Wraith were in that.
Yeah,
Wraith were in that league.
yes, yeah. Wraith were in that league as well. That's
I
right.
think
Yeah,
we won it that
um,
season.
I can't remember. Do you
Or it
know?
might be the season after because we won it at Hampden.
Yes, I remember that. Yeah, I can't remember who. I can't recall the details. That's far too long ago for my brain. But I didn't make the game. However, I was fortunate enough to be able to watch the game in its entirety from the comfort of my living room with a couple of beers. And I've got a lot of thoughts on this game. So I'm just going to talk you through a wee bit about how the game sort of progressed. So the first kind of 10, 15 minutes or so, I would say was relatively even, not too much going on. Um, but then County did start growing into it. I felt, and they were kind of they had a bit more of the ball than us. They weren't overly dangerous. You know, come the end of the game, the stats don't lie. Ross County had 2 shots on target, and we had 3 shots on target. Despite the fact that Tony Docherty, by the way, and the Ross County interviewer, I'm going to quote exactly what the wording of his interview was. The Ross County interviewer, having just lost the game, he said to Tony Docherty, and the opposition today weren't up to much, were they? And Tony Docherty's response was, "You'll never see such a one-sided game in your life," which is absolutely insane given the stats, the scoreline, everything else. Absolutely wild. So that I would just like to say, get it up, both of them. But then, kind of against the run of the play, a bit of kind of lapse in concentration at the back. The ball falls to Josh Fowler, but kind of maybe about 15 yards out, and he slots it home very, very nicely. It was a good finish. But then after that, County kind of start taking control again. And just before halftime, unfortunately, the ball hits off of Carlo Pignatello's arm just inside the box. It is a penalty. It's given as a penalty. Ronan Hale slots home. We go into halftime, one each.
Before
Second
we go
half,
into the second half, I
yeah,
do want
let's,
to question about the first goal. There was claims of a handball from one of the Queens Park players. Watching
um,
it on the replay, it does look like sort of like, what's a handball rule now? It's you've got like the sleeve
I don't know
there.
how it's
It's like
worded.
it sort of like hits. It looked like it sort of hit there, which
Okay,
I believe is legal. I think it's like, what's it called? Like, not the collar line, but like the sleeve line or whatever. Like it's
okay,
like,
yeah,
so it's like it's sort of hit him on the sleeve, which I think is where it comes from. But
okay, fair enough.
watching it, I don't think it was a handball.
But it was a good finish. Fowler took his finish really well. It was a really kind of clean
Oh yeah,
finish.
absolutely. It was a very
Yeah,
good finish from the
yeah, yeah.
situation.
I have to say I hadn't noticed that about the handball, but fair enough. I'm just glad it wasn't given because that would have been nonsense. The second half comes out, and honestly, again, first kind of 5-10 minutes pretty even, and I think County were really going for it, and I was concerned. I think from about the 50th minute to the 60th minute, they had a lot more of the ball than us. They were really starting to control the game a little bit again without threatening too much because, as I mentioned earlier on, they didn't really have any clear cut chances. But then we get to the 60th minute. Matty Shields is kind of so the ball's flying over the county defence, and it looks like Declan Gallagher is kind of trying to shield his eyes from the sun, and he doesn't realise that Matty Shields is running in behind him. He picks up the ball, and Gallagher essentially just takes him out. And it's a straight red card, and it is a straight red card. Now it's on the softer end of the straight red card spectrum. I do have to say, however, Shields was through on goal. I know there was another defender, but he was lagging behind a little bit. Shields was through on goal, and that is a red card. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like Gallagher was the last man.
Yeah,
It's like that's it. Like you say, it's a soft one, but it's a red card every day of the week, and
yeah,
I think as you say, it's like Gallagher is like he's obviously misjudged it because of the sun. Like it's like you see, he's
yeah.
just got like his hand up like that, and it's like he just. It's like he goes to boot the ball, but he just boots like between the legs.
That's exactly what happens.
Misses.
That's exactly what happens. But I have to say, when they got sent off, I'm thinking I'm talking to one of my pals who's also unfortunately not been able to make the game. We're both watching it at the same time live, and we were kind of saying to each other that we don't have a great record over the years of going up against 10 men. In fact, I genuinely can't tell you the last time we came up against 10 men in a situation like this and actually capitalised on it. It's been a very long time. But do you know what? We went for it. Again, we didn't have a significant number of chances either, but I think we did as much as we realistically could have done. And then in the 75th minute, it was actually Aidan Conley who puts the ball in, I believe. And it kind of eventually drops to Josh Fowler and he slots the second home again. Just want to talk very briefly about Josh Fowler, by the way. So that's his fourth league goal now in 6 games and his ninth goal in 10 games when you include the League Cup. I absolutely love this guy, man. He's such an exciting player. His work rate is through the roof. And when he scores, see the way he celebrates, you can see how much it means to him. Um, Very, very excited to see what he can do for the remainder of the season and beyond. And beyond won't be with Queen's Park. That is a simple fact. But I think we've got a player there who can seriously have an impact on the trajectory of our season.
Yeah, it's interesting with Josh Fowler because as mentioned with the preview, it was a case of he hadn't really played at a high level.
Yeah.
Not as if, not as if the Scottish Championship is a high level, but
No,
what I'm
of
saying is
course.
like
Comparatively, even
his
relative
experience in
to.
Scotland is limited to the juniors, and then he's been
Yep.
away in like what was it like the Dubai League or something
Played
like
in
that.
Dubai, yeah, Dubai City, I think was.
Yeah, so it was one that had a bit of interest where it could be this guy could be a real gem of a finding, or could be a bit naff. Just there's a reason why he was playing in the
Yeah,
juniors,
yeah,
but he seems to have found his feet really quickly. He had a good League Cup campaign, and he's second for the top goal scorers in the
yeah,
championship. So it's a real good find for him,
yeah,
and
yeah,
it's like he's really making the difference for Queens Park this season.
yeah. He absolutely is, yeah. Um, so yeah, I mean, absolutely buzzing. Genuinely, I've had such a spring in my step for the past few days because I had absolutely, and I'm not joking, I had forgotten what it felt like to win a league game of football. I know that sounds ridiculous, but it's been that long, and it's ridiculous the impact that it has in your mood. So I am absolutely buzzing. Can imagine Ross County fans aren't quite so pleased. Although I will say, interestingly, the comments from County fans were that actually until Gallagher had got himself sent off, they were probably playing some of the better football that they've played so far this season. So maybe they are kind of slowly taking some steps in the right direction. And actually, I'd like to hear your thoughts on this. But I think Declan Gallagher, who by all accounts has been a liability for County so far this season, being suspended, forcing Tony Docherty to first of all give somebody else the captain's armband for at least one game, and to look at other options for his central defence partnership, might actually be a bit of a blessing in disguise.
Yeah, it will be interesting because like the problem with County this season has been their defence.
Yeah,
like just like comically bad at times.
yeah. Gallagher gave away the penalty against Arbroath in injury time as well.
Oh, so yeah, we'll be interested to see who comes in place for Gallagher
I
then,
think it'll
because
probably be Jakaviti, probably. Jakaviti
yeah,
against us, so he seems like the most likely candidate to kind of slot in there.
yeah, because it's like I've got my notes about how it's like County were the team on top for probably a good chunk of the game,
Yeah,
especially before the first Queen's Park goal. So yeah, it's like if we don't go down to 10 men, it'd be interesting to see if it would have been at least a draw for County,
I think so.
most likely.
I
But
think so. I don't think we would have won. We might even have lost altogether, if I'm being honest. But fortunately, that did not happen. We picked up all 3 points, and I'm very thankful that that is how events happen to transpire.
but yeah, it's like with that, and it's like County are still tied bottom, or at least they were bottom, but due to the fact that we're recording this during the Tuesday night games and Edry are 2-0 down, Edry have now
Yeah,
dropped down to the bottom. But it will be interesting to see. It is going to take time with County, with Doherty and Davidson coming in. It's like Cowie was given that summer that like this is a Don Cowie squad that's built
it
for.
is. Yeah,
It will be built for how he plays, and so it will be a case of Doherty and Davidson and Robertson having to work out who can play what,
yeah.
who if they can
I
play
mean,
the style that Doherty wants to play. So yeah, it will be interesting to see how they do in the coming weeks. And well, Queens Park with that win, that's them up to seventh. It's like you
sixth,
could
I
jump
think
above.
actually. I think we're
Yeah, you
sixth
could
now.
jump
Oh,
above.
seventh because they are winning now. Sorry, yeah, we were sixth until the air game tonight because they are winning. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, although I will say we have a couple of pretty tough fixtures coming up. So we've got St Johnstone at home on Saturday, and then the following Tuesday we've got Partick Thistle at home as well. So, but I feel a lot less concerned about those games having now finally picked up 3 points. I'm not suggesting we're going to win either or both of them, but at least it takes the pressure off a wee bit.
Yeah, it's like I was going to say, it's like you guys have managed to jump above Morton, which is
Yeah.
probably of concern to Morton.
It should be. It absolutely should be until they start winning games as well, as we talked about earlier on.
Yeah, it's like it's now the bottom three. It is now just Morton, County, and Edry who will win this now. I think the last podcast we were talking about how 5 teams will win this.
Yeah.
So
Now down to four. We've cut that to four, thankfully.
well, it's down to three. Who were the five that?
It's that you'll be looking at a live table if based on the AL
Oh, the
confirming.
Arrow winning, Arrow beating
Yeah,
the Farmer.
that's
That's
why
what it is. Yeah, it's a
that's
live
why they've
table.
overtaken us as well. Yeah.
It
So
is currently stood at three as of the time of recording this right
yeah.
now. Which, speaking of, that's the Saturday games covered. So, um, Enzo, I would like to thank you for your contributions to
Yeah,
this
no worries.
first half of the
Unfortunately, I won't be able
podcast.
to. Yeah, I won't be part of the second segment. But thanks a lot for having me back.
Yes, I'm sure you'll be looking forward to. I'm sure there won't be another 202-day wait until the next Queen's Park victory.
I mean, the crazy thing is, in the past 3 years, that's the second time we've waited that length of time to win a league game. For past 3 and a bit years, it's the second time we've had such a gap between winning league games. So I never say never, but hopefully not for the sake of my mental health.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it was that season after you win a title challenge.
Robin Veldman,
Yeah, yeah, that time.
good friend of Wraith Rovers, Robin Veldman. Oh dear.
So, yeah, that's it for the Saturday games. First half, and now it's time for a half-time substitution. Well, this is sad, isn't it? I try doing something different, and yet I'm just abandoned by my co-hosts. Well, suppose I better get this finished, then, shall I? So, starting off with the second half of this podcast, we will have St Johnstone against Dunfermline, the Friday night game, the one that I would normally start off this whole thing with, but no, evidently not. But anyway, St Johnstone, they came off a 2-0 win at Starks Park the previous week, whilst Dunfermline managed to beat Arbroath 5-0, which was quite impressive, considering I couldn't tell you the last time Dunfermline scored more than 3. But Saints were very much the dominant side in the first half, but Rory McLeod would manage to give Dunfermline the lead through. It was a pretty tidy finish right in the top corner. Second half, we start with Kai Fotheringham getting an equaliser early in the second half after Mason Bunn parries a shot from a corner. And then Josh McPake would score from a Jamie Gullen cross after, again, Mason Bunn just decides to just watch the ball instead of trying to claim the cross, even though it was pretty easy to get to for a goalkeeper. I don't know what he was planning. But at the other end, 3 late saves from Toby Stewart manages to give Saints another 3 points. That, along with the Saturday results, put them, I believe, how many points would it have put them clear? There's a table. This. Yeah, would have put them 5 points. Did it put them 5 points? Yeah, 5 points clear following Saturday's results. And moving on to the Tuesday games then. Again, Dunfermline were at home to Ayr this time. Ayr still looking for a first win. And it would be Mark McKenzie who would give the visitors the lead early on. This was after a shot that was heading towards the near post, got parried onto it by, what's his name? Billy Terrell, who I think is playing in his first game for Dunfermline. He parries it onto the post, but it bounces it back into the middle of the box straight to Mark McKenzie, who just smashes it home from 2 yards. Pretty easy goal for him to score. Second half, Chilocum Mullen would get sent off after a second yellow. I don't really know what he did. And it didn't help that the Palace TV didn't show like an actual slow motion replay to actually understand what happened. So I've got no comments to make on it other than I don't know, it's deserved. I'm sure the race shirt that I'm wearing does not give away my bias. But Wood pressed for a second. Curtis Main hits the post. McKenzie and Oakley both miss 1-on-1s. Then Dylan Watchett would himself get a second yellow. And with that, he gets himself sent off. But Ayr hold out to get their first win of the season. So maybe this will be where they start to kick on, get a couple of results, start to get themselves back into this playoff race. And the other Tuesday night game, Airdrie against St Johnstone. As mentioned in this podcast already, Airdrie 0-0 draw with Rafe on the Saturday, and Saints were looking to extend their lead at the top of the table, which they would get off to a good start with doing. Jamie Gullen, turn and finish, really nice move from him. 10 minutes in, maybe to hit it bottom corner. It was a pretty good finish, very Jamie Gullen-esque, which makes sense because it was Jamie Gullen. But and then Reece McAlea's back post cross, we find Diabate, makes it 2-0, 20 minutes in, and you're fearing for Airdrie at this point. You're thinking, oh god, this is going to be 5 or 6 or whatever. But a second half of not really much according to the highlights, aside from Cammy Cooper getting a goal back for Airdrie. But then I suppose it's probably the main talking point of this is the full-time Rami, which should see Diabate sent off along with Aaron Reid for Airdrie. And with that, everyone on the Tuesday night games had a player sent off. And it also meant we went from 2 total red cards in the Championship to 6. Just over 2 games. But yeah, there we go. There's the second half of the podcast done. Anyway, moving on to the table. As mentioned, St Johnstone sitting top. They are now sitting 8 points clear with a goal difference of 12 already. We're only 7 games in, and they're on 19 points. Of course, the only 2 that they dropped were at home to Morton. Then it is Rafe and Arbroath, both sitting on 11. Partick Thistle with 2 games in hand are sat on 10. They're sitting in 4th. Dunfermline are 5th on 8 points. Ayr and Queen's Park with their respective first wins of the season. They're both on 7 points. Ayr sitting 6th because they've got a 0 goal difference versus Queen's Park's -1. Morton, top of the winners table with 6 points from 7 games. But again, they've got 6 draws. They just really badly need to get a win from somewhere. Ross County and Airdrie meanwhile share the bottom. Ross County had a goal scored. So yeah, not really good start. But hopefully next week I will see a full cohort of my co-hosts, because we do have a full set of fixtures all on the Saturday. We have Queen's Park at home to St Johnstone, Ayr at home to Airdrie, Rafe at home to Arbroath, Dunfermline at home to Partick Thistle, and Greenock Morton at home to Ross County, which, as I mentioned, is one that I could imagine Greenock Morton are eyeing up right now to be the one where they finally get their first win. Of course, it is actually a Tuesday night game, Queen's Park against Partick Thistle, so maybe a Wednesday night podcast recording will have more than me. But yeah, that'll be it. I'm just getting this over and done with. Goodbye.